when Disney bought Lucasfilm, I was not happy that they cancelled the Clone Wars. I absolutely loved this show and the way it introduced new characters, fleshed out existing characters, introduced us to new and intriguing storylines, expanded the lore, and developed the characters that had no character, the clones. But alas, the show was cancelled, and we got the garbage pile which was the Disney Star Wars movies. But after many years, the apprentice of George Lucas, Dave Filoni, has brought Clone Wars back for one final season. And this season consists of 12 episodes, and they are each divided into 3 4-episode arcs. And today, we are gonna go through each one. Let's get this binge watch started. So the first arc is called The Bad Batch, and I love the concept of this. The battle plans that the clone troopers are carrying out are constantly failing left and right. The clones think that the reason for this is because the enemy is able to predict their strategies with some sort of system. So their plan is to break into the enemy base so they can destroy or remove that system. To assist them, they are given a team of more unpredictable clone troopers called the Bad Batch. These troopers have a perfect record, but they don't operate as disciplined as the normal clones do. And despite their big differences, they all have to work together and complete the mission. And this was a very good 4-part arc. Something I have always loved about the Clone Wars is that it is able to introduce new characters, and not only is it able to make the characters memorable, but it's also able to make them super likable. And I really enjoyed watching the Bad Batch and seeing how they operate. My favourite of the batch was Wrecker. He's a super strong clone who acts like such a badass, but he's afraid of heights. That was so funny, and they never overused the joke, something that Marvel could learn from. The action scenes in this 4-parter were also really well done, and you can tell that the production and choreography is a significant improvement over the previous Clone Wars seasons. So the creators of the show have definitely come a long way and have learned a lot when it comes to making an animated series, and it shows. And the scene where Rex covers for Anakin while he goes to see Padme was so good, and the way these two are talking about it, I'm pretty sure that Rex knows that Anakin and Padme are a couple, which is very nice. It certainly increases the status of trust between the two and shows that they both have a strong friendship. And when Obi-Wan shows up, that was hilarious. And they also hint that Obi-Wan knows that Anakin and Padme were talking. I wonder if that means he knew that Anakin and Padme were a couple all along and he just never troubled them with it. So yeah, this arc was overall a really fun time, and it only further shows how much Rex is willing to put his own life on the line to save his brothers. And after not getting any new Clone Wars for such a long time, it was nice to see the characters again, especially the clones. And I give the Bad Batch arc an 8 out of 10. Now we come to the second 4-episode arc. This arc shows us what Ahsoka was getting up to after she left the Jedi Order. And one day, as she's traveling, she comes across 2 sisters who have some money problems and who, incidentally, owe money to the wrong kinds of people. And I'm gonna be honest, after I saw the first episode of this arc, I was thinking, oh god, is this gonna be a 4-parter? Because I feel like I've had enough of these new characters after just 1 episode. But after I watched the next episode, I was surprised at how much fun I was having. The episode was big in scale, there was some foreshadowing as to what was going to happen in the next arc, and then the 2 sisters drop a large bomb on Ahsoka about their past and what happened to their parents. And I thought that was really interesting, as it showed how the Jedi treated ordinary citizens, and it shows the flaws in the way they operate, something that The Last Jedi tried and failed to convey. So I liked this arc, but one of the big problems is that I think it was 1 episode too long. 3 parts would have been fine, but I feel like they were pointlessly extending the story so it could fit into 4 parts. And overall, I think they could have spent their time more wisely on a different arc as opposed to this one. One thing I disagree with though is that I hear a lot of people say that this Ahsoka arc is completely pointless, but I disagree. I thought it was very relevant. Remember, prior to this arc, Ahsoka left the Jedi Order because she lost faith in the Jedi, and the reason this arc is so important is that it further drives home to Ahsoka that not only did the Jedi turn their back on her, but they also turned their back on the citizens. And it did play a big part in how Ahsoka viewed the Jedi Order when she came back, and it only further gave her reason to later say that she is back to help as a concerned citizen and not as a Jedi. So the episode did have merit for her, but yes, I do agree that it went on for longer than it needed to. And of the 3 arcs, this is one that I doubt I will ever see again, and I can't give it any higher than a 7 out of 10. And here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to talk about the 3rd and final arc, which concludes the whole Clone Wars show. Now, as I said, the Clone Wars has been gone for a long time, and those last 8 episodes are a strong reminder of how much we love these characters and how much they love each other, which makes it all the more heartbreaking when we finally get to one of the big hooks with these last 4 episodes is that continuity-wise, it pretty much aligns perfectly with the Revenge of the Sith. We see what happens a few minutes before the rescue mission for the Chancellor is underway, and we see everything happen from both Rex and Ahsoka's perspective. And we even see what Darth Maul was getting up to at this time, and his storyline and his involvement in these episodes is so fascinating, and it's such a good plan that he puts into motion. And it's very unlike him to do this, and hearing him spill all his motivations and fears and why he orchestrated this war to Ahsoka, it just hits you on so many levels, and you can tell it really shakes her. Also, everyone as always delivers great performances, but I felt like Sam Witwer had really upped his game as Darth Maul. His performance was a lot more deep, sinister, and focused than usual, and later on, it contained a lot of panic. It's like he knew this was his last time playing the character and he took full advantage of it. I don't know how else to explain it. It was really fantastic. I would even go as far as to say that it is some of the best voiceover work I have seen. Also, this scene where Maul offers Ahsoka the chance to join him, this meant so much more in the Clone Wars than it did in The Last Jedi. And after our main character chooses not to help the bad guy, the Clone Wars gives us a lightsaber fight between the two characters rather than doing the stupid Force tug-of-war thing which Rey wins because why wouldn't she? She's only been using the Force for a few days and Kylo Ren has been using it for most of his life. I mean, it only makes sense that she would win and knock Kylo Ren out in her first Force battle. And by the way, the lightsaber fight between Maul and Ahsoka is right up there with one of the best and most intense lightsaber battles in all of Star Wars. It really was amazing. There was so much tension leading up to it, and the music, the way they used their surroundings, the choreography, the fact that they got Ray Park, the actor who played Darth Maul himself, to get into a mocap suit and actually do the stunts and lightsaber combat was truly special. Really, the action scenes in the last 4 episodes were so epic and huge in scale. And also, the animation in the final 4 episodes is absolutely stunning. There were a lot of times where I was just jaw-dropped at what I was seeing. And near the end of the fight, I love how Darth Maul tells Ahsoka to let him die. This shows that Maul would rather die than live through the horrifying events that are about to happen. And it's the fear in his voice which really fills you with this feeling of dread and fear for what we all know is going to happen. Only, it makes it even scarier as you don't expect someone like Darth Maul to be this shaken by it.
You're all going to burn! We're all going to die! You don't know what you're doing!
And it's at this point, the war is over. Ahsoka and the clones have captured Darth Maul, Anakin kills Count Dooku, Obi-Wan kills General Grievous, and on the way home, Ahsoka and Rex reminisce about the Clone Wars now that it's over, and Ahsoka says that the Republic couldn't have asked for better soldiers, and she couldn't have asked for a better friend. And then it happens, the moment we have all been dreading since the very beginning of the show.
Execute Order 66.
Yes, Lord Sidious.
From here, the remaining episode was such a big punch in the gut. The music throughout this episode, especially in the final minutes leading up to Order 66, was so dark, intense, and it really puts you on the edge of your seat. And it even brings in some of the sad music from Revenge of the Sith. The most notable one is Anakin's Dark Deeds, which plays right when Ahsoka is being betrayed by the clones. And when you add all of that to the absolutely heartbreaking fact that Rex and the clone troopers painted their helmets with Ahsoka's face to honor her, they are now wearing her colors on their face with the intentions to hunt and kill her. There's just so much layers of tragedy to this whole situation, and it's downright heartbreaking. I mean, as someone who has been following these characters for years, the emotional and irreversible impact that Order 66 has here is far more heartbreaking and depressing than the emotional baggage the remaining Avengers had in Endgame. Especially when Rex breaks down crying that he essentially has lost all of his brothers. Again, the word to describe all of this is heartbreaking, because that's exactly what it is, and it just reminds you that the clones are victims of the Emperor too. They are clearly robbed of their free will and are brainwashed into killing the Jedi, their friends, which just makes you hate the Emperor even more. This to me really is some of the best Star Wars ever, and it is by far so much better than anything that Disney has come out with. Just think about that. I got so emotionally attached to the story that as clone troopers and Ahsoka over movies that have Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia, and the evil grandson of Darth Vader. Somehow, the story where most of the characters consist of clone troopers is the far better and far more engaging and emotional story. It really makes you feel sad. We already know that Anakin's going to turn to the dark side, but the fact that you see it all happen from Ahsoka's perspective, she has one of the nicest reunions with her master. They intend to see each other again, but really, this is the last time they see each other. It's also the last time we see this animated version of Anakin, and the next time we see him as the villain. and it hauntingly ends with him thinking that both Ahsoka and Rex are dead. The only two remaining good things in his life are now gone. He is now truly alone, and the show does an amazing job of having you witness Anakin's turn, and it really affects you, even though it is happening galaxies away. It still has a massive impact on you and gives you this feeling of hopelessness, defeat, and loss. But there is one glimmer of hope. Darth Vader picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber, and if Anakin wasn't still in there, then he would have left it without giving it a second's thought. But he actually picks it up, looks at it, and turns it on. And he remembers that this is the last gift he gave to Ahsoka, and it was the final time he saw her as Anakin Skywalker. It's the last of his happiest memories. And honestly, this is the saddest note I've ever seen a Star Wars property end on. It's the first time where hope is given, but the tragedy of the situation has completely taken over. And it's amazing how, despite us knowing what the eventual outcome will be, that seeing Anakin in this physically and mentally destroyed state is still so sad. This really is some of the best Star Wars I have ever seen in my life. The Clone Wars has always been among my favorite Star Wars ever, but it's not until I saw this amazing conclusion that I truly think that the Clone Wars is among the best Star Wars I have seen. And the Siege of Mandalore, the third and final arc of Star Wars The Clone Wars, gets a 10 out of 10. Every single one of these episodes were perfect in every way possible, and I have no complaints. Also, there are some fun Easter eggs in there too. When Ahsoka looks into Fives, she uses Anakin's password, and his password is 8108. That is a reference to the date that the Clone Wars movie premiered, which was August the 10th, 2008. So Dave Filoni is referencing the beginning of the Clone Wars right when it's about to end. So many TV shows completely drop the ball with their final episodes, and they fail to conclude in a satisfying manner. But the Clone Wars fully delivers with concluding the show, and it makes the whole journey we spent with the Clone Wars feel completely worth it in the end. Through all its ups and downs, I will forever remember it in the best way possible. And I will always remember how Disney came along and messed it up. If you want something new and unexpected from Star Wars, and you want it done properly as opposed to incompetently, then go ahead and put on the Clone Wars. It's a long journey, but I guarantee you, it is completely worth it. Before this show, we all looked at the clones as faceless armies that were expendable, but it turns out that they were also victims of this war, and the tragic send-off they have in the final episode is just heartbreaking. The fate of the clones really is gut-wrenching, and it only gets even sadder the more I see it. They were each given their own character, and even though we saw it coming, it feels so devastating to see how they were treated in the end. And the last 5 minutes of the show has some of the most emotionally haunting imagery I have seen in all of Star Wars. I waited for all of the episodes this season to come out, and then I binge watched them in 2 days, and I am so glad I did that, as opposed to watching them 1 episode a week. These need to be binged, especially the last 4 episodes. It actually takes away from the experience and intense story if you watch just 1 a week. I was also watching the last season of Clone Wars on my 4K projector, and the last 4 episodes really are cinema worthy. I know it's more than likely that most of you did not watch these final episodes on a projector, but if you ever get the chance, I would highly recommend you do. But for me in particular, who is a long-time hardcore fan of this show, had I watched these episodes on my computer or my TV, then I would have been really missing out. And the giant scope of the visuals and the action scenes really blew me away. It's shocking to see just how much care was taken with crafting the countless stories for the Clone Wars, and in comparison to seeing the complete lack of care with the entire Disney live-action trilogy. Dave Filoni has really put J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Kathleen Kennedy to shame. And let's not forget that this is the last Star Wars story that has George Lucas's fingerprints on it as well. And I seriously doubt that we will ever get anything Star Wars related that can top the finale to Star Wars The Clone Wars. And yes, Dave Filoni should definitely replace Kathleen Kennedy as the head of Lucasfilm. Or if he can't handle the business side of things, then he should definitely be given full creative control over what projects are made and how they are executed. Disney and Bob Iger really need to look at this and realize just how much they have screwed up with their movies and TV shows. Dave Filoni, on the other hand, he made 4 episodes of Star Wars that were 100 times more epic, mature, and emotional than everything Disney have done with Star Wars combined. Just think about that. Star Wars The Clone Wars started out as a kids show before it became more adult, and they could easily have said, it's just a cartoon, put anything out and they'll be fine with it. But The Clone Wars was never treated like that, and these last 4 episodes were especially not treated like that. They were handled with such care, and they ended on the best arc out of the entire 7-season show, and that was no easy bar to live up to. Congratulations, Dave Filoni, and thank you so much for coming back and finishing the Clone Wars. It was a long time coming, but you have really given us some of the best Star Wars ever, and this was really needed after Disney came in and made a mess of everything. Unlike Disney, who added nothing to the story, you added so much extra substance, both to the prequels and the original trilogy, and we will never forget that. So, that's it for another Let's Binge Watch video. I have another one coming up very soon, and I think you guys can guess which one that is. So, comment below and let me know what you think of the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and what you think of the show as a whole. Please do click that like button, as it really does help my channel get noticed by YouTube's algorithm, and feel free to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all of my future videos. And I will catch all of you next time. Take care.